Welcome back to Inside Games, the only gaming news show brave enough to tell you that we were right about Starfield.
Yeah. Starfield was overhyped, it underdelivered, and most people are probably going to love it anyway.
I mean, I already do. Middling reviews and broken promises have players feeling a certain kind of way on the internet, to put it mildly. We got 7 out of 10 reviews, we got manifestos going up on Reddit, and of course, some folks yet again finding a way to shoehorn culture war debates into a video game.
Yeah, just to get this out of the way early, we cover news here, not bad faith histrionics. If you want to get mad about pronouns and a character creator, go cry about it alone and let time leave you behind.
Exactly. The rest of us adults will talk about actual adult issues, like getting real mad that both IGN and GameSpot rated Starfield a surprisingly average 7 out of 10.
Yeah, do they not know that that's 3 less than 10 out of 10? Jesus, somebody teach them some math. Based on expectations, that's a little severe. That's a bit of a swerve for what was supposed to be Xbox's next big thing, savior of the platform. This is not only the first new property for Bethesda in ever, but it's also the first release for Bethesda Game Studios since their acquisition by Microsoft in 2021.
Starfield was also supposed to reverse Xbox's ongoing first-party release woes after high-profile stumbles like Halo Infinite, and then, of course, this year's Redfall. Oof, a lot was riding on this game, Starfield.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Starfield may still do all of that, may reverse fortunes and sell a ton, even as a 7 out of 10 game. Even in early access, Steam player counts are looking real healthy, and we see tons of people claiming to have a great time with the game.
And what'll make your great time even better is winning a Starfield Gaming PC, which you can win from Signal RGB. They're sponsoring today's video. Skytech Gaming, Intel, and Signal RGB partnered to bring you this Starfield Gaming PC. The 6 indicator lights react to your in-game stats. Now, if a stat is below 50% power, then the corresponding indicator on the PC pulses red. This interaction is made possible with the Signal RGB application, which syncs RGB devices from any brand. The Skytech Gaming team built the entire PC. The bottom of the PC contains 2 Stream Decks with custom knobs and icons, and the hardware can be easily accessed for servicing by pulling off the screen. The system contains the latest generation Intel i7-13700K processor and the 7900 XTX graphics card. So click the link below in our description right now to enter to win the Starfield PC from Signal RGB. Man, it's cool.
Thank you very much, Signal RGB. Here's another thing about Starfield. Despite some journalists giving it a 7 out of 10, we've been pretty skeptical about Starfield for months now, and we like it too. Even me. I think I was probably the most skeptical about it.
Now that's crazy. I know, obviously Lawrence received an early access code, was sponsored to play the game. I got an early access code, but I was never sponsored. But we both liked the game. I knew I would, but Lawrence, I did not expect to like the game.
Yeah, I've seen some people out there arguing that the turn in sentiment about Starfield is because people got early access and felt like they had a head pat from Bethesda. So if you want to believe that, there, run away with it. I just gave it to you. But
sure.
I mean, there's something going on there. It's just not what they said it would be. Which, guess what? It's Bethesda. So as usual, we might be looking at a situation where a game's not all that great, but it is pretty fun, which seems to be a concept a lot of gamers struggle to really wrap their heads around. Which again is kind of weird because that's what Bethesda games have always been.
Absolutely. This did not come out of nowhere, though. We reported on leaked clips last week showing that Starfield wasn't nearly as open or expansive as Bethesda implied in their pre-release marketing for the game.
Yeah, at the time, journalists with early access, but still under embargo, dismissed a lot of these concerns, even though they couldn't really talk about them. Forbes contributor Paul Tassi said, "Nobody knows what they're talking about," when news broke out that planets were in fact pretty limited tiles rather than fully explorable environments.
I also saw many comments saying Todd Howard said this years ago that they were tiles, and I said, oh, okay. And it didn't see any links, but I believe you. So
also not what they made it sound like at all.
Yeah, not at all. And it turns out all these clips with the invisible walls accurately represented real restrictions in the game, like being unable to walk more than 10 minutes away from your ship, being unable to go underwater, or space travel being nothing more than a series of loading screens. And it turns out not all critics were as dismissive of those restrictions.
Yeah, GameSpot's Michael Hyam calls Starfield a mile wide and an inch deep, praising the game's gunplay and occasionally intriguing side quests, but finding the whole package a tried and true but well-tread formula that misses some of the depth of the games that came before it.
More philosophically, Hyam struggled to find Starfield's raison d'etre, feeling that Starfield banked on the intrigue of space exploration and the vastness of the cosmos, and forgot to create an identity beyond that.
Also, the game's not really about that. So, yeah.
No, not at all.
To make matters worse, Starfield's feeling of space exploration doesn't really deliver because of the aforementioned loading screens.
Here's a quote from Hyam. "Trekking across the galaxy is relegated to strings of fast travel points," adding that, quote, "the sense of discovery is dulled when I'm often landing on barren planets. slogging my way across them on foot, only to find the same mining facility or research laboratory I found halfway across the galaxy on another planet.
Writing for IGN, Dan Stapleton also could not really feel Starfield's sprawling space magic, writing that the galaxy's planets can feel extremely small when each of them is separated by little more than a thankfully brief loading screen.
It's true. Stapleton also points out that another track from Bethesda's greatest hits is at full volume here. Quote, Starfield is a game that is roughly 30% inventory management. This is true. And yet it is shockingly bad at that task. You are constantly over encumbered in this game.
Yeah, just stop picking stuff up.
Yeah.
That's the sad truth, because none of it's valuable anyway. You're like lugging around a bunch of rocks to sell them for 500 credits. It's pointless. And anyway, Stapleton summarizes by ultimately recommending Starfield, but warning that it only gets good after more than a dozen hours. So I don't know. It's one of those, you got to finish the first 4 seasons before it really kicks in.
It's weird because I completely disagree with that. I was hooked within the first 2 to 3. But I've heard other people say that. PC Gamer's Christopher Livingston dropped a 75 on the game, eloquently saying, quote, after rolling credits on the main quest with one character and ignoring that quest to become an aspiring drug kingpin with another, I like Starfield, but I don't love Starfield.
Paste Magazine didn't even need numbers to declare Starfield fails to launch. You know, we're going to get people were already gearing up to use Starfield all over the place, so yeah, get ready for more of that.
Oh.
Garrett Martin writes that Starfield's drawbacks just made him want to go play No Man's Sky or Mass Effect instead. Quote, Starfield tries to give us the universe, but it's so weighed down by its own ambitions and fundamental lack of inspiration that it can't even get into orbit.
Wow. Now, as you might imagine, a highly anticipated title like Starfield, getting some 7 out of 10s and generally mixed reviews, sure did ruffle some gamer feathers. But after some time with the game in early access, a shocking amount of folks agreed with the so-so reviews.
Yeah, this is the really weird part. Consensus. Reddit user Bosnian Breakfast posted, the longer I play, the more I feel like the IGN 7 was a fair score. That was on the Starfield subreddit over the weekend. That was even filled with pretty reasonable responses like Frogerer replying, it's one of those 7s I can put 250 hours into. I can live with that.
SC Gopher also found a lot of consensus in posting, Starfield feels like Mass Effect 1 without good writing, and summarizing by saying it really doesn't deserve a 10 out of 10 or even a 9 out of 10, and I kind of agree with that.
Yeah. No Dust 2015 said Starfield feels like it's regressed from other Bethesda games, and that the feeling of constantly being contained and limited is just not pleasant at all.
And of course, folks are already workshopping memes around that trademark Bethesda jank. Love it. An early target is the Starfield stare, a byproduct of Starfield NPCs' cartoonishly expressive eyes and their tendency to make robotic eye contact with you as they walk past. We know this very well.
Yeah, sometimes they slip into that Kubrick glare, and it can get a little unnerving. I mean, one thing I love about it, it still has Starfield still has the NPC conversation jump scare, where you're just doing your thing, and it just cuts to somebody's face. Halt!
I love it.
But it has this like walk by Terminator glare now too, so. God, they're cooking for good. They're cooking for real. And like you'd expect, we got some satisfying glitch videos making the rounds, including breakdancing NPCs, crew members going for random spacewalks, and those pesky animals getting all jammed up in the landing gear on your spacecraft. That's the best. It like falls out.
Oh boy,
it's going up in his face, man.
Those are the best. These are the best. I play these games for specifically these glitches because I think they're amazing. But like we said, even though Starfield may be a mid game, that may not matter. That Bethesda magic does still have some sparkle left to it, I gotta say.
Yeah, all the reviews we quoted are on the lower end. I mean, that was the point of the story. Despite being from ostensibly larger and more established outlets. At the time of writing, Starfield's Metacritic is a bit higher than 70, hitting 86 on Series X and an 88 on PC.
Yeah, it's possible that scores will change in the coming weeks given Bethesda's mysterious selection of outlets to receive early access codes. The publisher apparently excluded a handful of European outlets for reasons unknown.
But a lot of reviewers have enjoyed Starfield plenty despite the constant loading and lack of actual space exploration. Forbes' Paul Tassi gave the game a 9.5 out of 10. Writing simply, they pull it off. Starfield is going to make a lot of people happy.
Oh, wow. Writing for Video Games Chronicle, Jordan Midler rated Starfield a full 5 out of 5, saying that, quote, Starfield is an excellent game which manages to refine the celebrated Bethesda RPG formula while introducing an untold number of mechanics and systems that many players could easily overlook.
Even the memes aren't all glitch dunking, you know? Muzapan went up to the Bethesda sandwich pile with this impressive clip of a cargo hold full of potatoes just spilling out of an open door.
Yeah.
That actually was, I okay.
It's really
I wasn't
cool.
impressed with the sandwiches. Those potatoes look nice.
They did. I was impressed. Some players are even sharing tips to create a more immersive space travel experience. Hug and 00 posts that, quote, you don't need to go into menus to space travel, with a clip illustrating your ability to warp to a destination directly from the cockpit. And I started using that once I watched the clip. But still, in that one situation, it's kind of like the game we were expecting. Look, I knew forever and ever this was not going to be the game we were expecting. But it's close. Starfield.
Yeah, it has the veneer of it. It's the illusion of a space game, which is what Bethesda's really good at making, illusionary games. Yeah, really. And if you add it all up, critics agree that Starfield isn't really the sprawling, limitless space exploration epic that Bethesda pitched it to be. They are a little more split on whether or not that matters, though.
Meanwhile, the audience is already enjoying the game for its simple looting and leveling pleasures, which is what Bethesda always does well.
Yep, so here we are. Todd lied, but the game's fun anyway. It really is a Bethesda game. Wow. So now that the game's out or nearly out, it'll probably be out by the time this video airs. Bruce, you played it. I played it. After months of enduring Bethesda's marketing, how do we feel about Starfield now?
So this is maybe one of my superpowers, but with Cyberpunk and with Starfield, I was watching the marketing and I was going, I mean, it's not going to do what they are showing. Now, they didn't explicitly say, you're going to stay in your ship for hours and hours and hours and warp around and never see a menu. Like, they didn't say any of that stuff. But I can enjoy a video game for what it is. So the marketing is always fun. It's fun to watch or whatever. But I don't ever take the marketing at its first impression. Ever. So I enjoyed Cyberpunk when it came out because I didn't take the marketing at its first impression. I enjoyed Starfield when it came out because I didn't do that. So I'm loving the video game. I played about 35 hours of it. There are a lot of menus. There's a lot of inventory management, like there almost always is in every other Bethesda game. I think they probably could have hidden a few of those menu screens behind flying your ship and docking and things like that. I don't know why they have these tiny little... They're literally... These loading screens are like a second and a half long. So they kind of don't get in the way. But I can see why it wouldn't feel like you're exploring space. That said, man, I'm having a blast. I could play this game for a really long time. And there hasn't... I've had one crash in 35 hours of games. I've seen lots of fun little Bethesda glitches, but nothing that kills the game. Nothing that corrupts the save. I'm having a blast, Lawrence.
I'm having a good time. It has had moments of being a blast. When I find an exceptionally weird little dude in the corners of space, that's fun. And the shooting's fun enough. I guess the thing that really got to me during the marketing campaign is the marketing campaign for this game felt a bit over the line, like a little egregious, in how they very intentionally misrepresented parts of the game to imply whole systems and structures that are not there and have never been there. And I know people would say the same about Cyberpunk, and I can kind of see where they're coming from, but this felt a lot more directed and pointed. For instance, there's this part in the Starfield Direct where one of the developers is talking about loving playing in stealth, and the video is showing them crawling around in vents and popping out and stabbing people. That is a total work. That's from a story mission where there's specifically a story event about crawling through vents and stuff.
Did you spec into stealth at all? Because I didn't.
Yes, I am maxed on stealth. Stealth is broken. It doesn't even work as a mechanic. I alerted somebody falling in free fall. Like movement equals sound for some reason, so somebody heard me whooshing through the air and started... It's not a mechanic in the game. Like, you can try to force it and play that way, and in your head you can tell yourself I'm being stealthy, but the game's just not there. I'm still having a fun time with the game, but I haven't had like a single instance of stealthing up on somebody and stabbing them like I would want to. So, like to pitch that as a whole way to play the game when it's just fundamentally not a thing. So yeah, that seems a little over the line to me. But now that the game's out and people can see it and make up their own minds, it's kind of a different story. It was just aggravating sitting through all of that. Sitting through the market. That one commercial where the dude goes into the ship and then he comes back and he looks at a child who's staring at him with inspirational, receptive eyes, and he nods to her knowingly. Yes, space really is filled with mystery and wonder. That's not what Starfield is. It's not even philosophically what Starfield is. The ad should have just been running around and shooting a bunch of things and grabbing loot out of containers. But that's not, I guess, not marketable or sexy, so... It is what it is. I jotted down a hotter take in case people really want to be mad at me. I feel like Skyrim and Fallout were always 7 out of 10 games. Just critics and players alike hadn't really played the games that did what they did fundamentally better yet, so they didn't really have a good point of comparison. But they've always been illusionary RPGs. Fallout 3 tried a little harder, but this has been the trajectory of Bethesda games for a long time, having an RPG illusionary veneer over the surface of the entire game that's really just a series of action RPG experience levels to fill up. It doesn't matter if the game's fun. I'm not saying you're not allowed to enjoy it, but hopefully Starfield and the benefits of time have made people realize what these games more fundamentally are.
I've been calling them casual RPGs because that's what they are. Playing Baldur's Gate and then going to Starfield. Baldur's Gate is a lot of like numbers and making sure that you're doing the right thing at the right time. The turn-based, like there's like a lot of, and you can do almost everything. There's so many dialogue options. It's really amazing. It's an amazing video game. But I never expected Starfield to be that ever. I expected it to be the most casual of RPGs. Where, like I said, with stealth, like I didn't expect stealth to work. No way.
It usually works though. It worked in Fallout. It worked in Skyrim and stuff.
Yeah, but it's like so ridiculous because you could put a bucket on somebody's head, right? So like it's the opposite.
That's a good point.
I never felt like stealth worked that way either. It didn't feel like it was real. So to me, again, casual RPGs. That's the way I always looked at them, and I'm totally fine with the way that they play as long as they keep doing what they do. I have a great time.
Yeah, you're right about that. Now that we have Baldur's Gate, we have Larian and some other developers that are making actual CRPGs. I don't have any beef with Bethesda making faux CRPGs. So all's right in the world. Everyone has video games, and there's nothing to be mad at. Although this part's fun because the early release stuff still irks me a little bit. Not super happy about that. So this is via SteamDB. They posted like the peak player count on Steam during the earlier release window peaked around 250,000 players. They have to be early access if they're playing, or it's 250,000 people with early access codes. But so the early access window was $30. So some multiplication means Bethesda basically invented a free $7.5 million by selling the game early at a higher MSRP, and that's only on Steam. So
I was gonna say, all the people that paid the $31 or whatever it was for Game Pass, we didn't get to see those numbers. We have no idea how many people are playing on Xbox. Now, also, this is a comment I saw 1,000 times on our previous Starfield video. If you paid $30 for the early access on Xbox, you don't own the game. I saw so many people were like, well, there's nothing wrong with this, Bruce and Lawrence. Of course, we'll let people pay and they can play the DLC later. And I was like, not if they don't have Game Pass. So you're paying $30 plus, so you're paying $30 for DLC and early access to a game you may not own later on down the line.
And also Microsoft can change the price of Game Pass at any moment. So if it ever gets too high for you and you bonk out of Game Pass, then you'll have to buy Starfield at whatever it costs at that time. So yeah, they got your save files hostage. That's kind of the thing.
That's true. Also, forgive us for the victory lap. We took a lot of shit for being skeptical about Starfield. Lawrence was extremely skeptical. I not as much, but I still, I knew it wasn't going to be what it was. But having actually played it ourselves, the skepticism was a little bit justified, I still think, right, Lawrence?
Yeah, I agree. I think we both agree the game's fun. What's there is fun. It's just not what was pitched, and that was our main point, is like, hey, we want you guys to be aware they're selling you something that we don't think is real.
Yeah, the point here is we're not out here to just shit on stuff to make ourselves feel special. That's not what we do. We try to provide a voice that's not quite as wrapped up in the drifting opinions of larger games media. That's what we usually land in the middle here on this show. We're not talking about how great a video game is or how bad a video game is. We're usually right down the center.
Yeah, we try to produce... There's a consensus that can happen, and everyone likes to feel like we all agree. But sometimes that consensus can drift away from what seems practical or rational. So sometimes that means disagreeing with the larger consensus and trying to adjust expectations. Ideally, that doesn't always mean downward, right? I think that's the worst situation to be in, is when we have to be like, ugh, this might not turn out like you want. Ideally, we're out there finding the games that need a boost and trying to support them and spread awareness of them. So that's I guess I'm give myself a little back pat for that.
Hey, we have some Inside Games patrons. They support our Patreon. God bless them. They believed every single word Todd Howard has ever said. Wow. Brandon Young, Christian Morgan Anderson, Ryan Dareberry, and Brian Cosner. Good for you.
Yeah, keep your heart open. Unfortunately, these patrons here have had their hearts broken too many times, and now they don't believe anything. Nothing. Flat Earth, round Earth, toss it all out. Just in a void. Kyle Heaton, Crab Foam, Christopher Glavin, and Charles Gard. May you find belief again someday.
And before you go, here is the best meme ever. Thank you for supporting our Patreon if you do, because you support amazing art like this. And if not, please consider signing up for the ad-free episodes and a bonus podcast in addition to these amazing memes.